Nepotism. If you employ your dumb friend who did nothing but play well at college, you cannot expect him to do any good to your company, can you? So, nepotism has shown to have strong pros in family businesses. However, this is especially true in the beginnings, but in the mid stages or in the later stages of life of the business, it is not that great. There have been some studies that have found that it decreases morale and motivation. There are risks of incompetence. There are a lot of potentials to start conflicts. It can damage a business reputation, legal issues under certain jurisdictions, change of conditions. We all know that modern and old times are way different, right? Not just in the fact that we used to have other ways of interchange of our value, but also in population and ideas. Those have changed a lot. For instance, the Industrial Revolution morphed the panorama way a little bit too much, right? We can start to think how the dynamics worked back in the old days, right? When small groups of people knew each other really well and would spend their days getting food, and that was somewhat enjoyable, right? That was kind of great. And more satisfying than today's standard job where you would enter a 9 to 5 job and you would basically have no life, right? And many times your job just consumes you. The difference with that is that you could see the contribution in your small group, right? For example, you could see the face of someone enjoying the food that you just chased, right? And that was great. While in the modern times you cannot do that easily, right? That was great. However, economics tells us that specialization is better since we can produce resources at a lower cost for all parties. So if you were small or weak, you would not have to go hunting, right? You would do something else that you were better at and provide that as a change. So that's a little bit about how each human being was specializing in what he could do better. That is great, right? Everyone can do what they desire to do and what are better at, right? But what happens when everybody is special? Then nobody's special, right? So the fact that we have lots of applicants that have the same skills and that can be replaceable is really bad, right? So the businesses have a lot of advantage there, right? Due to the increased supply of professionals and due to the lack demand that they have relative, right? Because there are a lot of businesses that need people to work there, but it's not as much as the graduate numbers, right? Some other things we take for granted are related to advancements in technology. It was not all pink color back then. For instance, if a mammoth hit you and you got a puncture, you were more likely to die back then than now. And also life expectancy have luckily gone up, so the changes are good in that regard. However, advancements in technology didn't do just good. For example, technology evolved and the standards for customers become higher and higher. We would expect everything to work flawlessly, right? What do you think keeps the systems running flawlessly? Well, it has to be robots, but especially people. Many people carry their phones literally everywhere, so that when an emergency at work happens, you have to go there and solve it. I mean, it's cool we can shop on Sundays, but our expectations might be crushing people's dreams and times. So we gotta reflect on how small and trivial decisions shape the current awful situation. People are ultra dumb nowadays, or perhaps they were forever, right? Attention is on its all-time low, and actions that must be highlighted are ignored. For instance, Anna Reich tells us that managers praise people that save the day, but not the ones that are constantly maintaining the whole thing together. We think that revolutionizing the world by implementing the thing is better than just by doing some small actions to solve current small issues. CEOs care about the today and the current quarter, but seem to forget that the company might run for years. That is one reason why dumb companies, such as, decided that it was fun and great to fire a lot of people for customer service and to cheap out to replace them with freaking AI. Guess what? That awful company had to go back to hiring those people after several losses and 3 years. People, CEOs, tend to follow the trend, and even though a company might not need to do something, they still do it because if Apple does it, it must be reasonable, right? People care more about what our competitors do as opposed to solving internal issues and focusing on what benefits their customers. Customers defend companies that are trash. For instance, many companies create products that are really bad for the health and for the environment, and yet people continue to buy such trash and defend them as if they were the owners of the business. We tend to copy what works and are not original by ourselves. So, if a company is exploiting their workers, we might as well do it right. Sky high expectations from customers. Since people have gotten used to good quality services and are paying a lot of money for those, they expect their problems to be solved fast. That puts pressure on deadlines as well as to managers, who pass that on to workers by giving them more work. Incompetence. Aside from the fact that the majority of students are not cut for what they do, they might not like what they are going to be studying, right? That makes them perform poorly. As we mentioned, people are really dumb, right? And that does not help with competence or being able to do work just right. If incompetent people are making decisions for incompetent people, we cannot expect there to be empathy and an effective outcome. Some impacts of incompetence are poor decision making, reduced productivity, which causes poor customer satisfaction and service. That in turn will create more expectations for customers, and then the bosses might have to throw even more job to their employees, which creates an endless cycle. Lower morale, so that unique competent employees you had are not motivated to work at your company. What do you think can happen? In regards to this topic about incompetence, one or several Reddit users talk about crazy stories. But at the bottom line, spending 80% of the time solving incompetence takes away time that we could use more effectively so that we didn't have to work that hard, and also not having to put yourself together just when the deadline arrives.